Yo. Episode 5 of the Shalaar Talks podcast. I'm your host, Shalaar. Once again, I am doing this by myself. And I'm going to just tell you what I be thinking about on a regular basis, basically. So it's time for me to talk to them or talk to y'all, or you know what I mean? So basically, I had a dream, right? And in that dream, I don't know why, but it was more like I was a narrator in someone else's story. But the story didn't make sense. So there was this guy, right? And he ended up going to a party and meeting this girl. And when he met the girl, they kind of hit it off right away. Now, this whole time, I'm narrating. So I'm not in the story, but I'm narrating the story. Like, kind of on my Morgan Freeman Shalaki, you feel me? So as they do everything they need to do and go to when they need to go, they start to hit it off more and more. At this point, they start dating. Weeks turn to months. Months turn to multiple months. And then at that year roll, at one point, she says she has to go home. And he's looking at her like, home? I thought you lived here. He's never seen the girl before that party, and they hit it off, so he just never thought to ask. But she was like, I vacation here. And he was like, vacation? So at one point, she was just like, yeah, I'm from island, basically. And he's like, oh, Hawaii. And she was like, no, not Hawaii. He was like, what other island? Japan? She was like, no. He was like, what island could you be talking about? So she said, I'm from Mayor Island. And he just stared at her. He's like, Mayor Island? What the fuck is Mayor Island? So he's trying to do his research. He cannot find Mayor Island. But he was like, you know what, whatever. I'm going to just go ahead and take you to the airport. So when they go to the airport, she's basically like, he's like, where's your ticket? And she's like, no, I'm flying private. And he's like, whoa, what do you mean you're flying private? So this girl basically held the fact that, one, she lives on an island that no one's ever heard of. Two, she's flying on private planes. And three, she does not live in the same area he live in. So she basically threw his world for a loop. Now I'm narrating from his perspective, right? And this guy was ultimately confuzzled. He didn't know what the hell was going on. All he knew was that everything he knew about her was a lie, except for the way he looked and her name. But he doesn't know the name yet. So at one point, she's just like, I'm flying private and my plane's out there. I just basically go get in it. And he's like, oh, well, are you going to call me? She said, yeah, I'll call you when I land, blah, blah, blah. So she gets on the plane. They wave goodbye. They hug, they kiss, and do what they need to do. And she just gets on the plane. Plane takes off. Gone. Then they do long distance for about 2-3 months. And at one point, he kept it to himself, but he goes in the room and asks his mom, he said, Mom, have you ever heard of a Mayor Island? And she's like, nah, I never heard of a Mayor Island. And he's like, huh, because that's where my girlfriend lives. And she's like, oh, your girlfriend. Now, they don't have names for some reason. Like, for some reason, my brain wasn't populating names. So I'm going to just give them 2 names. Malachi and Bianca. I guess. I don't know. But yeah, he goes in the room. He asks his mom. He's like, Mom, can I, do you know what Mayor Island is? She's like, no, I don't know what Mayor Island is. And he's like, have you ever heard of it? She's like, nah, I never heard of it. That's something new. That's something at Denny's. I don't know. And she goes, well, why don't you just ask her what the fuck it is? So he's like, you're right. So when she lands, she calls him. Later that night, and they start talking. And he's like, "Hey, babe, I have a question." She's like, "What's up?" He said, "What the fuck is Mare Island?" Because I've been confused ever since you left about what Mare Island was. I don't know what it is. I am really confused, and I want to know more about it. So she goes, "It's an island." He's like, "Which island?" She's like, it's owned by a very wealthy group of people, and just people live on the island. It's not really that known. Now he's skeptical at this point. He's like, okay, I've heard about these stories. I'm never visiting that place. So he goes, video chat me, right? Now at this point, it's a little more in the future, so they got some holographic 3D video chat thing that I came up with in my head, and they're like running, and she's like just in the room standing there. He can see her like laying on the bed, just like on the phone, but he sees her room. So he's just like, let me see outside. She shows him outside, and it's just normal. It looks like she's in a regular place. Like, people are outside. She doesn't have neighbors, but she has people walking around. It's a lot of people there. It's a lot of people on the island, but he cannot find it online. He's doing his research. He cannot find it. So he's just like, I want to come. He said he wanted to come. And she was like, okay, I mean, did you ask your mom or whatever? He's just like, yeah, I'm going to ask her, but I'm coming. And she was like, okay, I'll send a plane for you. He's like, oh, wow, I'm sorry. She goes, commercial flights don't fly here. So now he's confused again. Why can't commercial flights fly to Mare Island? So he gets on a private jet. She's on the private jet waiting for him. You know, they got stewardess, they got a pilot, they got all that. The private jet's beautiful. It says like mayor on the side of it. She's like, oh, he's like, oh, this is nice, blah, blah, blah. So only you can fly in and out of this island on this plane, on certain airlines, on certain planes. You got to know somebody. She's like, yeah, basically. He lands on the island after having a great trip in the air, talking, just conversating with his girlfriend, even joining a Mile High Club, but that's not appropriate for YouTube. But they land, and her parents are like standing at the airport waiting for him to get out the plane, and they're talking to him. They're like, oh, nice to meet you. Nice to finally meet you. I heard so much about you. Blah, 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 blah. Basically saying, welcome to Mare Island. And he was like, so why is this island so exclusive? And they said, well, we're the mayors. The dream ended. I woke up. I swear to God, I woke up. Like, my dream left me on the cliffhanger. That's crazy. Another thing I think about is, why hasn't the whole ocean been explored? Like, what is in the ocean to the point where we know exactly how much is in it, but we will not go that far? Here's my theory. I think Atlantis is real. I think there's more civilization underneath the ocean. Do I think they're human-like creatures? Maybe. Do I think they can communicate with humans? Maybe. Do I think they're more advanced than us? Maybe. Even in Black Panther, you kind of saw a little bit of how I kind of thought it would be. I'm not a comic book guy. I legit watch the movies a lot more than I read comic books. But the way Neymar and his people were organized and the way they were doing things kind of made me think that that's how it actually is. Like with the Bermuda Triangle and shit like that. Like, I believe in those type of conspiracy theories. Why? I don't know. Do I think they're interesting? Yes. Another thing we talked about, this is actually piggybacking off of something we talked about last week, is parallel universes. Um, I believe parallel universes are real, and I believe sometimes your dreams can take you to those parallel universes. I've had that theory for a while, and that's what I kind of thought lucid dreaming was. And then I saw Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, and I watched when Wanda was doing like the dream walking or whatever they called it, where she could take over herself in the parallel universe and kind of make them do what they wanted to do, what she wanted to do, and basically take over their bodies and stuff like that. I believe that can happen. I think that's what happens when you lucid dream. I think things are completely different. But I believe that you're actually taking control of that body. And I say that because the dreams that I've been in have felt so real and so different beyond belief that sometimes I was like, there's no way this hasn't happened to me. I believe dreams also have a way of showing you the future. Because when deja vu hits, it's kind of like I've been here before, and I've had this conversation before with this person in this exact same room. Everything looks exactly the same. That also brings me to the Matrix, or the reality we live in. When you look at it from a view of this is my life and I'm just living in it versus how can I make this life work for me, or how do I navigate this simulation, you start to think way harder about what's actually going on, and your brain starts to open up. They say we use, I think, 10% of our brain power on the daily. And then there are these monks or different higher beings, or people that can access the higher beings and meditate and float and do all this extra stuff, opening their mind to unlimited possibilities. The fighting techniques, the way that they build their bodies to be so perfect, or not perfect, but indestructible, or things like that. It's them, I feel like, almost breaking themselves out of that matrix. But the thing about the matrix is, or the simulation is, you get in what you put out of it. And everybody hears that a lot, regardless of anything. And getting in what you put out is basically what you hear no matter what in sports, whether you're a gamer, whether you eat a lot, whether you exercise, whether you work, whether you don't work. For those about sports people every single day, there's an NFL player or a college football player outside working out every day. And for every NFL player that's doing that, there's 2 or 3 just sitting there chilling. They're chilling because they think they hit that level where they don't need to work anymore. And that's why you see those people have those seasons that fall into a slump, because they don't feel like they have to work as hard since their spot is already earned. And they don't realize that it takes a lot to earn a spot, but it takes a lot more to keep it. That's a football analogy. You look at work. You see people working on a daily. You see those people working nonstop, 10 hours a day, going at it, working, putting in overtime, doing all the extra little steps to make sure they do everything correctly. And then you see their managers and their bosses not working as hard, kind of slacking, kind of doing what they want to do. And you watch those people that work to the bone skyrocket past their bosses, and you wonder why. It's because they are working to the point where they can beat the simulation and get to where they want to be. Another thing are these content creators. Something I'm aspiring to be right now. When you want to bring yourself to a level where you want to make this a career, you gotta have fun doing it, man. Like right now, I'm not talking to anybody but y'all. I'm giving myself to y'all. You know what I mean? So since I'm giving myself to y'all, I don't have anybody to play off of. I don't have anything to really, edit how I'm thinking. I don't have any pauses. I don't have any room to wait. This is me creating this content just for y'all. What do I talk about on this podcast? Like I said, I talk about everything. But one thing I do always want to do is leave y'all with a message. And I don't know if I'm going to have 1, 2, 3 messages, but I just go wherever my brain take me. And this message right here is iterating off my last message, is making this simulation work for you. Like, whether you think life is a game, whether you think life is a gamble and you don't want to play it, whether you think life is a simulation, whether you think your life is already predetermined, whether you think you got a right or wrong choice, it can all be broken down to one thing. You got to make it work for you. Like if you look into, even if you look into religion and you believe in God, don't believe in God, you believe in Scientology, don't believe in Scientology, you're a full-blown atheist, you don't believe in anything, you just think we die when we die. Okay. Let's take the Christianity route, because a lot of people that I know are Christians. A lot of people follow the faith. A lot of people read their Bible daily. A lot of people that I know go to church regularly. When you look at that, they always preach God gave free will, right? And free will, people usually classify as this or that. This or that. This or that. Right? Now, what's crazy is, why can't you have both? And I say that to say this. When I say both, I remember somebody broke it down to me. He took us to a movie theater. He said, imagine you're in a movie theater trying to pick what movie to watch. Terrible analogy, by the way, but this is what he said. Imagine you're in a movie theater picking a movie to watch. And there's a comedy on the left and an action movie on the right. Completely different movies. God knows what he wants you to pick, but it's your choice to pick it. That's terrible, because I don't know why you would use a movie in that aspect, but why can't you go see the action then see the comedy? Why can't you have a job and be a content creator? Why can't you walk down this path and take this path with you? Why can't you just walk straight down the middle? Like, when you look at it, being a good person is completely subjective. Granted, there are some things that are innately wrong. Not going to talk about those on my podcast. It's not my place. I'm open to different opinions, but I am not going to talk about those things on my podcast, because it opens up for arguments, and I don't argue. I have conversations. So instead of arguing and saying something that will most likely cause an uproar and blah, 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 I'm going to just tell you like this. Some things are innately wrong. They are. Some things are. Now, what's right is completely objective also, or subjective also. Like, who said it's right for a man to go to work and a woman to stay home? It may be right to one person, but to another person it's not. But it's not your place to tell that person what to do with their life because you chose a different place to go with your life. It's not your job to tell somebody you shouldn't be a content creator because you're not funny, or you shouldn't be a football player because you're unathletic. Those are skills you can gain. What your job is to either A, support their choices, support their habits, support what they want to do, or B, just keep your opinions to yourself. Why would you go out of your way to demean somebody, downgrade somebody, make somebody feel less than just to get your point across, just to make yourself feel better? These people calling themselves Christians, I've seen Christians go and say God disapproves of gay people, and then in the same breath say come as you are. I've seen people say pro-life and turn around and want to give somebody the death penalty. I've seen people come and say TikTok is brainwashing our kids and turn around and make a video. I've seen people say I would never let my kid do this, but you did it first. It's not your place to stop somebody from doing something. It's your place to teach them how to do it correctly. If a kid wants to explore, if a kid wants to touch the stove and you say don't touch that, it's hot, they're going to want to touch it. If a kid wants to touch the stove and you say, look, it's ultimately your decision, but if you touch that stove, it's going to burn you and it's going to hurt, and they make that decision to touch that stove and they want to find out for themselves, let them. The best thing about mistakes is they always lead to a lesson. Now, other than that, some people do make the same mistakes over and over and over again, and those people are insane, because the definition of insanity is making the same decision over and over again and expecting different results. You can't help them. There's some people you just can't help. Rehab works or it don't work, but you gotta want to go to rehab for it to work. You know what I mean? So I say that because people can be a leader in their own destiny, a leader in their own life, but as long as their life not affecting your life, let them live their life. I got 2 lives I affect right now. Mine and my fiance's. I affect 2 lives right now. And right away, those are 2 lives I affect. 3. My dog, too. I'm responsible for myself, my dog, and my fiance. My decisions will automatically affect myself, my dog, my fiance. Granted, now with that being said, I do have a brother, I do have a mother, father, you know, I have a grandma, auntie, I have family. But the decision I make today won't affect them, because at the end of the day, I'm a grown man. And the reason I say my life affects these three directly, me, my fiance, and my dog, is because, one, I've decided to tie my life to hers, and we brought this dog into our life. Meaning, from here on out, every decision I make affects these 3. So when I make decisions, I got to factor all that into play. So not only am I manipulating the simulation to affect me, I'm manipulating the simulation to affect all 3 of us, to make sure we have the best life possible. I'm making decisions to affect all 3 of us in our lives. I'm making decisions to make our lives better. When we decide to have a kid, I'm then responsible for 4 people until that kid turns a certain age and decides to move out of the house. because I decided to bring that child into this world. If I adopt a kid, I decided to bring that child into my world. And all this is important because living your life is the most important thing you can do. Everything you decide to tie your life to, you affect. But the decisions you make in your life, you shouldn't expect other people to think your decisions are right. You shouldn't expect other people to think your decisions are wrong. All you can do is make your decisions and live with your decisions. You can't make people decide to accept Jesus Christ into their heart. You can't make people denounce their religion. You can't make people be gay. You can't make people be a part of the LGBTQIA. You can't make people stop being a part of it either, because they made a decision and now they're going to live with it. You can't choose to make somebody straight. You can't choose to tell a straight person to, love gay people. They may not. That's not your business. I love everybody. Personally. Everybody's family to me. I don't know anybody I don't like. Well, okay. I know a couple people I don't like. But that's because of the person. I don't like the person because of the person. Race, gender, ethnicity, the path you decide to walk on, job description, athlete, non-athlete, smart, dumb, musically entitled, funny, not funny, lame, all of them. I have friends that are all of them. All of them. Because people make choices, but their choices shouldn't affect your life in that big a manner. Like, people are outraged about a Little Mermaid movie. Or people were outraged. I don't know if that's still a big thing, but people were outraged about that. And another thing that's low-key separating people right now is this Montgomery Brawl situation, which was hilarious. Okay, so this situation was hilarious, and the best thing that came out of this situation was definitely the folding chair memes. Like, I was in the room training with the folding chair earlier, but that ain't none of y'all business, because folding chair just became the most deadly weapon on the planet. But that situation alone, it was amazing to see a group of people stand up to help somebody. But that's not what's separating us. The thing that's separating right now is the fact that people are using it to basically discriminate against black people, for black people, against white people, for white people. They said if the table was turned, it'd be an uproar, blah blah blah. But what it really was people coming to help somebody in need. Granted, they was all the same race, but he needed help. He was getting jumped on. So what people need to stop doing is stop looking at, stand up and applaud what's happening, but stand up and applaud it for the right reasons. I think everybody should live together in harmony. Granted, it won't happen. I don't think it could ever happen, because some people are born that way. Not born that way, but some people are already predisposed to what they already learned. They're already predisposed to the teachings. They're already, I wouldn't say they're already brainwashed to believe a certain thing versus something else. And that's not right. I watched a TikTok, and for those saying TikTok is like a certain thing, I don't believe that. I believe TikTok is another way of connection, just like Instagram and Facebook. But for people wondering what I was saying, I was watching the TikTok, and one of my favorite TikTokers, Farad, he was talking about not making decisions that can make you happy, but being happy and then making decisions. Like they'd be like he used an example. He used a couple of examples. He said dressing like a girl as a. You know what? I'm not even gonna touch that. I'm dating them because they make me happy versus I'm happy, so I'm gonna date them, or going to an amusement park makes me happy instead of I'm happy, so I'm gonna go to the amusement park, or I'm happy, so I'm gonna go on a drive versus going on a drive makes me happy. Be happy inside first, and then go do things, because these things in life aren't guaranteed. When you come into the world with nothing. Ever. You come into the world with nothing every single time. You come in by yourself. Right? Some people make the argument you come in with family, you come in with nothing. Nothing. No material items, no money, no power, no respect. You come in with nothing. Now, when you come in with nothing, and as you grow, you start to learn. And now, what you learn isn't your fault. You learn from what you've been around. Here's a quick story that can help me go into this. When I was in elementary school, or from a young age, my mom always taught me to speak proper English. And proper English is basically articulating your words, using the right words, using the correct vocabulary, saying everything correctly the first time, making sure you're understood properly, not using the ebonics or slang you'll be using with your friends. She always taught me English was my first language. And she also taught me how to expand my vocabulary. And my uncle taught me math, but that ain't important right now. But when I was in school, I was in elementary school. I was like in second grade, and the teacher went up to my mom, and she said, "Your children are very well spoken." And my mom looked at her crazy, and she said, "What you mean by that?" And she said, "Well, I mean, they're very well spoken. They speak very," and she was like, "They speak English?" Like, what do you mean they're very well spoken? Like, was that supposed to be a compliment? Because it's not a compliment. Like, if I'm saying the things the right way every single time, you don't compliment me for something that I'm supposed to do. You don't compliment me for being well-mannered because that's how I'm supposed to be. Just because I was taught correctly doesn't mean it's a compliment when you say I was taught correctly. Like, that is really an insult, because by you complimenting that, you're kind of saying, I didn't expect this from you. You didn't expect me to be raised the way I was raised, which is wild. And that came from an adult. Another thing, I walked into I had a summer camp that I had to go to. And I was a counselor at this summer camp for I think it was elementary and middle school students. I was in high school at the time, helping run it. I was one of the counselors there, helping out. And I became a student favorite. Like, the students loved me because I'm able to have fun and enjoy myself, and also, make sure everybody around me is having fun. It's something that I enjoy. And one of the leads, an older gentleman, he pulled me to the side. He said, "Hey, when you came in," now at this time I had dreads. I was, I looked the same. I just had long dreads. I was laughing, joking, playing around. I'm goofy. If you know me, you know I'm goofy. I play too much. So, but I walked in and he goes, "Hey, come here." And when he talked to me, he said, "Hey, when you walked in, I thought you were going to be trouble. But you turned out to be one of the best counselors I've had. And you should be proud of that." And I was like, I should be proud of an assumption you made based off not knowing me? Like, you know what I mean? I was brought into this world, you know what I mean? I guess some people call it a disadvantage because I'm black. They say I was born at a disadvantage, but I wasn't. I wasn't born at a disadvantage. I don't call being black a disadvantage. Yeah, sometimes life can be harder, but I don't call it a disadvantage. Because the reason I don't say it's a disadvantage is because every time I walk into the world, I know that I gotta hold myself to a higher standard than anybody else would. I know I gotta obey all the rules of the world. I know the second I walk in, I'm gonna be counted out. I know the second I walk into an interview, or 9 times out of 10 when I walk in the interview, somebody's gonna have a predisposed way of thinking of me. I know walking down the street, people already look at me a certain way and make assumptions based off of just seeing my skin. I know having the initial conversation won't be easy because I don't look approachable. I know all these things. So when people say being black is a disadvantage, I say it's one of the best advantages you can have, because you know that a lot of people expect something from you. So when you prove them wrong and you show them and you rise above everything that they say, they have no other choice but to look at you in amazement. By manipulating the matrix that's already made a decision about you, by changing the status quo for yourself, by making your own decisions and not worrying about everybody else around you, by making sure you, the people you're connected to, and the things you are directly connected to, like I said, me, my fiance, and my dog, you can then beat the system, beat the game, make everything work in your favor, and not have to worry about anybody else's decision about you. I have 4 episodes out right now and 67 views, and I'm still shooting. I will never be discouraged. I will continue to shoot every week. Whether I have a follower or not, I don't care if every video has 1 view. I know I'm changing one person's life. I know that one person is tuning in every single week to watch me. Whether it's my friend, my mama, my cousin, a random person in China or England or Germany somewhere, I don't care. I just know somebody is turning on that computer, going to YouTube and watching me because they want to hear what I have to say. Because I'm making the decision, regardless of how many views I have right now, I don't care if this ever blow up. I'm doing something I love to do. I will work a 9 to 5 every day and come here and shoot an episode because I can and I want to. I love it. Even if it's just one fan or two fans or three or four. It don't matter to me. I love this. I love the engagement. I don't post on TikTok that often, but I'm about to start because I love the engagement. I love being able to connect with the people I watch on TikTok. I love talking to my friends. I love having these conversations. So why would I stop because y'all don't want to watch me do it? I don't care. I love myself and I know what I can do. I know who I am. I know what I think about. In this matrix that I'm in, my version, me, the main character of my movie, me, the person that know what it takes to take the next steps, me, the person that's worked hard in everything I did, never stopped, will never stop, me, the person who knew the day I was born the world was against me and I changed that aspect, me, Shalaar, your host of the Shalaar Talks podcast. I know that at the end of the day, I'm in control of my own future. I know, end of the day, who my decisions will directly affect. I know, at the end of the day, that going above and beyond is important in everything you do. I know that changing the narrative of a story that somebody wrote about you in their own mind can do differences in your life, can make huge impacts in your life. I know that predisposed misconceptions help more than they hurt. Because if they write you off and you prove them wrong, you look that much greater. Thank y'all for tuning in to episode 5 of Shalaar Talks podcast. I'm your host, and another episode will be dropping next week. Also, thank y'all. Remember, like, comment, subscribe, blow me up. Look for that next episode. Deuces.